Hello, all. This is Dr. Dave Maslach talking about reciprocity.com. The E is spelled with a 3. This is where I believe that every writer should be able to get excellent feedback to help them write better. And every graduate student should be able to get resources available to allow them to become much more prolific at their writing. So in this particular video, I really wanted to talk about roundabouts and how slight changes to the roundabout has led to a quicker adoption of that particular technology. So I am a professor of innovation, strategy, and entrepreneurship. And this is something I've been thinking about for a while. I'm not an expert in sort of structural engineering or traffic engineering, anything like that. So this is my own common sense of looking around and looking at how the adoption patterns of roundabouts have occurred over the last 100 years. What's really interesting with the roundabout, these are these traffic circles that go around. You enter into the traffic circle, you drive around, and you go to a different exchange. You go to a different direction on the road that you're going to. What's really, really interesting, they've been around for 100 years, since probably just slightly before the 1900s. And what's curious with them is that they're just becoming a little bit more prevalent in North America and a little bit more prevalent in the United States. They were a little bit more common in the UK, for example, and they're pretty common around the world, except for the United States. It's been really slow to adopt these roundabouts. So it's a really interesting thing to think about, because roundabouts, believe it or not, are actually a lot more efficient in terms of routing the traffic, right? So you don't have to stop, which means that there is less emissions that a car is producing. You can keep driving, which allows you to drive faster. And then it also makes sure that there is no traffic backups, because those traffic backups happen at those four-way intersections. Yet we really don't like roundabouts. We prefer these four-way intersections in most of North America, most of the United States, which is kind of a curious thing. And I think this is a perfect example of what is a dominant design, an emergence of a particular dominant design. So a dominant design is where a particular technology, a technological design actually dominates a space. It becomes the most well-known thing in that space. And that's what everybody prefers. It's not necessarily the best technology or the best design in that particular space, in that product space, but it is the thing that everybody prefers, right? And so we prefer, as North Americans, we prefer to really like these four-way intersections rather than the roundabouts. Now they're becoming a little bit more popular now, and that was because there was a slight change in the design. Now the reason they went away in the early, 1940s, 50s, and whatnot, and we didn't prefer them after that, is because they were perceived as being very dangerous, and you would have traffic backups and stuff like that, because what had happened is that the traffic within the circle had to yield to the incoming traffic. Now, the slight design change that happened was they just had the incoming traffic, the ones that's going into the traffic circle, they have to yield to the inside traffic. That's a really subtle, tiny, tiny change, and yet that tiny change made a huge difference on the amount of car crashes that happen, the amount of sort of safety concerns that happen. And when that change was made, it allowed the traffic signal, or the traffic circle, the roundabout, to actually be preferred compared to the four-way intersection. But that was a long time. We understood this for a long time before it started to become more prevalent. In the last, say, 10, 15 years, I've only started to see them starting to pop up, in moderate locations. And it's a little bit more now where I'm at. I'm starting to see them more. And they're really nice because you don't stop at all, and you can continue on. You can drive pretty quickly through them, and you don't stop, right? So that's a big thing. Now, the reason why it's so slow to being adopted right now is because we've become used to these inefficient four-way intersections, right? And there is a large amount of regulations that goes on into changing any single intersection. There's a lot of there might be voting that might happen at the municipal level. There's all sorts of, paperwork and stuff like that happens. So it slows the adoption down. And one of the things that drives this sort of slow adoption is because people are very used to these four-way intersections, and they have never come across, most of us in North America don't come across these roundabouts, these traffic circles very often. So we're very uncomfortable with them. We don't know how to deal with them for the most part. And because of that, we're highly unlikely to vote them in or to push for their acceptance in the community, right? So it really slows the adoption. And so we're stuck, at least for the time being, with a lot of these four-way intersections rather than the four-way stops, rather than having traffic circles or roundabouts, as they're sometimes called, right? So it's a really interesting problem that we are stuck with this dominant design of the four-way interactions that are inferior to the traffic circle, right? And that's largely because of the hesitation we have, the uncertainty that we have, the sort of processes that drive learning behind individuals that prevents us from having more of these roundabouts. I think it's a really curious phenomenon. So if you like this video, do the old thumbs up. I do appreciate it. Make sure that you watch some older videos and see what I'm doing with the reciprocity project. The E is spelled with a 3, and that's where I'm actually creating something that's going to hopefully help out writers. It's a sharing economy proofreading platform, and if it ever makes any money, I would hopefully start investing in some graduate scholarships and stuff like that to help out behavioral sciences. So that's it. Have a good day, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you on the next video. Bye.